Well, I am currently packing for a trip to Wyoming. It's a trip that I've been looking forward to for a long time. A do-it-yourself bear hunt in the mountains, and as you can see, I have got a jumble in here. I have got a pile of stuff that still has to be loaded, but I'm getting the stuff ready, and I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm taking. I'm taking couple of barrels of trail mix, and I've got a lot of hamburger buns, probably 50-60 packages of a dozen hamburger buns. And what I've done with those is put them in 5-gallon buckets, and then I dump some cooking oil in on top of them, and then I let them sit for a while, and then I turn them over so the oil is completely soaked throughout, so it's not sitting in the bottom of the bucket, but it's completely, soaked up into the hamburger buns. And I'm also taking some candies and fruit and stuff, but mostly it'll be trail mix, pastries, and this bread. And I also want to show you, let me walk back here. I'm putting this in this barrel. I still got a bunch of more hamburger buns in here. As you can see, that chest freezer, I'm not very good with this selfie stick, but as you can see, that chest freezer is all still full of hamburger buns. This particular big chest freezer here still has a lot of breads and several bags of pastry. So most of that is also going. This barrel is going to be, I'm going to put all this frozen stuff right before I leave. All this frozen breads and stuff is going to go in that barrel, and it's going to go along with this. So I am loading up the back of my truck here. Not only got the bear baiting stuff, but camping stuff as well. That's got to go in there. We're going to be staying in my friend Virgil's wall tent. Now, I invited 2 buddies to go along on this trip. My friend Virgil, who's hunted with me several times before. He's hunted for several years in Ontario with my group up there. We went to a hunt in Saskatchewan one time together. Virgil's become a pretty good friend. And my buddy Dave, who is just a guy I know from church, and we've become good friends because we both like to hunt and fish. And Dave shot a bear right here on my home property last year and kind of got hooked on bear hunting. That was his first bear. Lost his wife to cancer right before Christmas last year, and I invited him because, I like him, I enjoy his company, and also I just felt like he really needed something to look forward to. Well, then he found out that he has cancer as well. He just had cancer surgery, removed his thyroid and some lumps and things from his neck, and he's actually got stitches where they removed some cancer from his chest, and he tells me that when we get to camp, I'm going to have to take his stitches out for him. So you got to be tough to be at bear camp. This guy qualifies, I'll tell you what. He's going bear hunting even though he's just went through all this surgery and stuff like that. He's not going to be able to lift much, but I don't mind doing the extra work just to have him along because he's a really good friend and been a good friend for a long time. So I'll show you the trailer here that I'm loading up. So this hunt is going to be on 4-wheelers, and then we're going to be, once we get up into the mountains on the 4-wheelers, then we're going to go ahead and we'll have to carry the barrels and the bait in and so forth. But as you can see, this trailer's starting to get filled up, and got some tree stands. I'm taking 3 tree stands and 2 ground blinds. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing several posts on this. We'll definitely show you some trail camera pictures and talk to you a lot about how we're analyzing where we're going to put the baits and so forth. I've spent a lot of time online on Google Earth, and also on base map, marking sites and so forth. We've been able to, it's really weird. Wyoming is really weird in the way that it has the system that you actually claim a section of land, a 1 square mile section of land, and that's your section, and you're the only one that can bait in there. So you have to go online and you have to look at the whole area and try to figure out which sections are available, and then you have to analyze if that would be a good spot. So I'll go into that in more detail in future videos. It's just a very difficult system for the out-of-stater to come in and try to, find a good spot in amongst the outfitters and the locals and so forth. But we're going to be up in the mountains. Most of our baits are between 7,500 and 8,500 feet, and so it should be really fun. And I'm going to do, like I said, several videos. I don't know how much I'm going to be able to do while I'm there because there's no cell service, of course, no Wi-Fi. The nearest town's 45 minutes away. I do expect to go to town a couple of times during this 2 weeks that we're there. If I have time, then I'll be doing a couple videos and I'll post them from there. Otherwise, I'll just do a vlog, a daily vlog when I get back. So thanks for joining me. I think it's going to be really exciting, and hopefully we all learn something from it. We'll see you on the next video. Looking good, Virgil. Starting to look like home in here. We're in the process of We're in the process of setting up camp here. This is Virgil's wall tent. What do you think? It's 12 by 16. Does that sound right?
I think so. Probably.
Okay. So it should be nice and comfy. It's kind of hot in here right now. But anyway, so we got this set up. And as you can see, we brought a lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff scattered all over that we're just trying to get organized. We got to set up a kitchen area yet. We're going to set up a canopy for a kitchen area. And Dave's over here unloading barrels in his four-wheeler. We got barrels that in Wyoming you have to use barrels to put your bait in. So we got the barrels. We got another 30-gallon drum of trail mix there. Dave's getting his four-wheeler unloaded. We are up in the mountains in Wyoming. 7,200 feet is where we're camping at here. And our closest bait here is about a mile. And then we got one about 2 miles, or a mile and a half the opposite direction. So this, I just got this all unloaded, and I'm going to set this up in kind of like a little office area in the back of my trailer here. We got a chest freezer in here. And wow, I'm already huffing and puffing. I'm not used to this altitude, but so I got a generator. I'm going to use my laptop here to look at trail camera pictures and edit video and stuff like that. And the chest freezer here it's full of pastries right now, but it's going to be eventually full of bear skins and bear meat, hopefully. So it's beautiful country. We're in the high country. I guess you can probably see the mountains a little bit. This little two-track road here only goes about another 100 yards there, and then it turns into a four-wheeler trail. Let me zoom in on the mountains for you, because it is we're actually going to have baits pretty close to those mountains up there. So you're going to see a lot of cool country here over the next few days. What do you think of all this?
Pretty neat, pretty nice.
Pretty cool. All right, let's get this bait set. I'm out checking baits here this morning, and it's a cold morning again. We've got 4 baits out now, and it's been kind of a struggle to get baits out in good places. And I have to tell you that the way Wyoming does the baiting regulations, it makes it extremely difficult for a non-resident or just anybody to come in and find a place to bait. It's really stacks the odds in favor of the outfitters. And I'm going to do an entire video on how to do this and the things that I've learned, the mistakes. We made a couple mistakes, and I want to do an entire video on that later. But we do have 4 baits out right now, and we finally got the 4th bait out yesterday. And it's a lot of work to get baits back in this country, even though most of the baits are only 200 to 400 yards from the road. But the baits have to be at least 200 yards from a road and 200 yards from any kind of water. And we had to abandon 2 of the places that we had registered a section to bait, and one of them we had to abandon because we were traveling down a 4-wheeler trail to get back to where the bait is, and on all the topographic maps and everything, it's labeled as a road where you can use 4-wheelers. And then one topographic map it said Jeep Trail. And unfortunately, we got back in there a ways, and there's a sign and a gate. It says closed to motorized vehicles except snowmobiles. So we weren't able to get back even into the section where we wanted to put the bait. So we had to let that one go. And then we had another one that I wanted to register that looked really, really good. And when we got back in there, it also looked really good. And there's a creek that goes this way, and then we found out there's another creek that goes this way. And it's a narrow neck down valley, and there, man, it really looked fantastic for bears, but there was just nowhere that you could be 200 yards from a road and 200 yards from water, because it was only about 600 yards wide and had 2 creeks that meandered and came through it, so we weren't able to put a bait in that one either. We drove the 4 hours round trip to Jackson yesterday, registered another section, then went out and put the bait out, and we also registered the GPS coordinates of the other 3 baits that we got out. So now we have 4 baits out, and we're going to go check them, and hopefully tomorrow, the next video that I do will have some trail camera pictures of some bears, and we've got good baits in good places, and we're pretty optimistic about this. But I got to tell you, we're having a ball. It is just really, really fun, and it's beautiful country. I mean, every so often, like just where I'm at right here, I just have to stop and go, just enjoy the scenery for a moment. And it's been hot in the day, 80 degrees in the day, and it's below freezing at night every night, so it's cold in the tent. But we're learning a lot, we're having a lot of fun, and hopefully we're going to get some bears on the bait. Okay, I'm going to take you through a quick tutorial here on how to take a bath in bear camp, and this is the way it works. You see this stream right here. You could say this water's cold, but you really wouldn't be doing it justice. So let's just put it this way. An hour ago, this was snow. And so here's how you take a bath. You wipe yourself down with scent killer soap, and you smear it all over yourself really good. And then you jump in the creek. And when you jump in the creek, the first thing that happens is you rocket straight up in the air and shoot completely out of the creek, and all of the soap is washed off you by pure momentum. It's kind of like taking a bath in a car wash, I suppose. So that's how you take a bath in bear camp. Actually, that's pretty close, because you can be in this water about 15 seconds before it starts to hurt so bad that you just can't take it anymore. So anyway, that's your tip of the day here on how to take a bath in bear camp. Well, things started out pretty slow for us. The baits just weren't being hit very well. In fact, we had a couple baits that took 4 days before we finally got our first bear on them. But we've got 3 out of the 4 baits are being hit right now. And we're getting some good trail camera pictures. I'll talk about that here in a second. We've just been checking the baits most every day, not all of them every day. but we've just been running them on the four-wheelers, and we just take a bucket of bait with us in case, the bait would happen to be cleaned up, which would be pretty unusual the first time it's hit. But anyway, we typically do that. We've been using the blueberry spray primarily. We've also tried a couple others, but the Northwoods blueberry spray, because these bears are primarily feeding on berries right now, so that seems like a good choice. We're also hitting it with Gold Rush about every other day, and Gold Rush is, we're using about a gallon of cooking oil and spreading it around, splashing it and so forth, and the bears get it on their feet and all that. So what's happened now is the three baits are being hit by bears, and interestingly, two interesting things. Number one, they're all chocolate bears, or they're all brown. One of them's a pretty light brown. And the second thing is that all of our trail camera pictures so far are in the daylight. There's not one single nighttime trail camera picture of a bear, which is strange. But we like that. So the three bears, let me tell you a little bit about them. One is a big adult male, chocolate, and he is a really nice bear. And when he comes in, he just devours the bait. I mean, he just gobbles and gobbles. And he's only there, yesterday he was there for 6 minutes. And but he just devoured a lot of bait, and so I believe that's a pretty killable bear. We're going to be starting to hang tree stands here shortly, and that'll definitely be one of the baits that we'll hang a tree stand on. The second bear is a lighter brown bear. It's just a beautiful colored bear, but it's kind of small. I think it's a 2.5-year-old bear, probably 120 pounder. I love the color of it, and it's a good size for a rug, so I'm thinking about considering it a shooter, I guess, at this point, just because it's such a pretty color. And that bear is a regular, and yesterday he was there at noon, and then again at 7 o'clock in the evening. And the third bear is another chocolate, but these chocolates do some unusual things sometimes in the way they shed their fur, and I've seen this before. This is just a young bear, probably a yearling, I think. It's a 1.5 years old, and he's got this blonde coat on him. And what happens with these chocolates a lot of times, they don't shed their winter fur in the spring as early, and then their fur gets, long guard hairs get sun faded, so they look blonde, but they're actually brown fur, but they're faded out. And then here in another month, the rest of the guard hairs will fall out, and then there'll be a chocolate bear. But right now, this little bugger, he looks like a blonde, except in his head and legs. And I'll show you some more trail camera pictures of him. He's pretty cool looking. So those are the three that we have. We've got one other bait that still has not been hit. Just seems like it's in a fantastic location. I don't know why it hasn't been hit, but we're just, giving it some new spray every day. And the nice thing about these baits is once they start to get hit, they just get better and better, and that's because you got a bear that's getting that Gold Rush on his feet, and he's walking around the area. He's walking through the bushes where we sprayed the blueberry spray, and we've also used Gold Mist and Bacon a little bit. And he gets that on his fur, so other bears are smelling him, and he's walking through the bushes, and they're smelling that. And they're also, once they start eating his bait, they're going out there, and the other bears are smelling their poop going, wow, this dude's eating way better than I am. So, they're going to try to find that food source, and so they should be getting better over the next few days. We'll hang stands on Friday, at least some of them, and then Saturday is opening day. So I've been having a blast. Man, it's a beautiful country. We're riding four-wheelers. I've been trout fishing, caught some nice cutthroat. We had a meal of nice cutthroat trout, and man, we're just having fun here and enjoying every minute of it. So we'll talk to you soon. Well, it's another cool morning here in the 30s, and as you can see in the background there, the sun is starting to hit the mountaintops, and it'll be another hour before it gets down in here where we're camped. But today's a good day because we're hanging tree stands today, and we sure started slow, but we've got 3 of the 4 baits have bears on them now, And so we're going to hang at least 2 tree stands today on the shooter bears. One of them is just a little yearling that none of us at this point are considering it a shooter. But right now, Dave and Virgil are sitting by a roaring fire, as we've done every morning because it's cold in the mornings. And going to have some breakfast and then wait a little while here, make sure the bears have been visiting the baits in the morning, and both morning and evening. In fact, all day. We don't have a single trail cam picture of a bear in the dark. Everything is daylight, which is bizarre. So we're going to go check the 4 baits and hang at least 2 tree stands and then make a decision. Tomorrow's opening day, so I'll catch up with you later in the day here. Well, we had a pretty good day today. We got a couple of tree stands up. Would have really liked to get 3 tree stands up, but we only got 2 up. Unfortunately, we just have 2 baits with bears on them out of the 4. One of them has not even been hit. I don't know why. The third one has 1 small bear on it, and we decided to hold off on that. We got a stand up where the bear I'm calling Brown Sugar, where that bear's at. That bear came in twice again during the day, yesterday or last night and this morning, I guess you'd say. So that's a bear that's very killable. Tomorrow is opening day, so we're pretty excited about it. The second bait that we have up on the mountain, it's 2 miles from camp, had that big chocolate bear on it. And he came in just maybe half an hour before dark again last night. And then in the morning, another chocolate bear came in, and I got to looking at it. At first I thought it was him, and then I started analyzing the color patterns and stuff like that, and it looked like maybe it was a little smaller. It looked like maybe it was a sow, and I just put the picture side by side, and I honestly think that we got 2 chocolate bears on that bait. One's a male, one's a female, and they're virtually identical color, and they have nearly identical blonde color patterns of guard hairs. But when I really got to looking at it, I think it's 2 different bears. So we got 2 bears on that bait, and unfortunately we have 2 baits with bears on them, and we got 3 hunters. So I'm not sure how we're going to handle that. We're going to check trail cameras again in the morning before we hunt tomorrow, and maybe something will change and we'll have an opportunity. Otherwise, I guess we're just going to have to draw straws and see who gets to hunt and who doesn't. Another interesting thing that happened today, we had some young woman with the Forest Service come into camp, and she was very pleasant, very informative. She answered a lot of good questions that we had about ATV trails and which trails you can use and which ones you can drive on and which ones you can't, because they're changing that a lot right now here in Wyoming. So it was just a real pleasant experience, except she delivered some bad news that there's now a fire ban, and we just cut a bunch of firewood, and I'm telling you, when it gets down to 30 degrees every night and you crawl out of your sleeping bag in a tent at campfire in the morning, sure feels good. But so now that's out. But anyway, tomorrow is opening day. We're going to check the baits, and then we're going to decide who's going to hunt where. And I'd like to think we're going to have at least 1, maybe 2 bears on the ground tomorrow night. So can't wait to talk to you tomorrow. Well, this is the day we have been waiting for. It's opening day of Wyoming's archery bear season. And if you've been following along on this vlog, then you know that we've been working hard here in Wyoming, and we are struggling, I guess, to get enough bears on the bait. But we're learning a lot and having a lot of fun and just enjoying this trip. We checked 2 trail cameras this morning, and the 2 baits that we're expecting to hunt tonight, we did not go in there. We're going to go in this afternoon and bait and then hunt. The 2 we checked this morning were both disappointing again. We have one bait that is in, it looks like an absolutely terrific spot for bears, but I guess the bears just don't know about it because it's been 6 days, 5 days, 5 or 6, without a single bear on that bait. And the other one, we had 1 bear on it. It's in a great valley that comes down to a creek, and the creek runs through another larger valley, and there's a good game trail along the creek, and you can smell the gold rush when you're walking up the valley from the creek. But unfortunately, there's like some kind of a family reunion taking place right at that creek, because they have pitched a bunch of tents and everything like that right in there, and so that bait went completely dead too, because they literally pitched their tents, and they're having a campfire and big meals, and like they got tables set up and everything like that, and they're 250 yards from the bait. So I'm afraid that bait is done. So the 2 baits that we have, one of them has 2 chocolate bears on it, and the other one has a light brown bear that we called brown sugar. And so I was thinking we'd probably draw straws or something like that to go see who hunts which bait. But Dave and Virgil, they both said, since I did so much of the work leading up to this, they felt like they wanted me to have a choice, and they would take the second choice. And so I'm going to go up on the big hilltop bait up by the meadow, and where the 2 bears are, and my hope is that I can shoot one of the bears and then just get out of there, unless the bear runs far enough away from the bait that I feel comfortable going in there tonight, skinning it and everything. But I may leave it late till morning. It's been getting down below freezing every night, so I think if I leave it till morning, then go up in there and recover the bear and not mess with the bait, then hopefully one of the other guys will have a chance to go in there and kill the other bear tomorrow night. So that's what we're going to try to do. And then either Virgil or Dave is going to go up and hunt the bait that has this smaller bear that's just got a beautiful color and really nice pelt to it. So anyway, we decided to come up here in the high country and just do some 4-wheeling. So we've been filled up our tanks with gas and just drove all over the mountainside here, and just had a blast here today. And so we're heading back to camp now to take a bath in the creek and get something to eat, and then get ready to go out into the stand. So we'll bring you an update here in a little bit, and hopefully we'll see a bear on the ground before the end of this video. Well, it's just after 4 o'clock and we're settled into the tree stand here. It's pretty remarkable to me that I'm in the mountains in western Wyoming hunting black bear and a do-it-yourself public land adventure. And it has been an adventure, and it's really been exciting, and just gorgeous scenery everywhere you look, and we've just had so much fun, good company and good food, and we've got some bears on the baits, and we've worked pretty hard to get 2 baits with bears on it. And it was really unfortunate, since there's 3 of us, that, you know, when I invited Dave and Virgil to come on this, I really thought that we could get 3 bears on the baits at least, and so everybody would have a chance to hunt. And unfortunately, we have 2 baits, and this one here has 2 bears on it, another has 1. And so I was just thinking we'll probably just draw straws, flip a coin or whatever, and make it fair for everybody. And these guys are just generous and unselfish, and they just came to me and said, you did so much of the work beforehand, you did all the leg work, and you deserve to have your choice. And so they allowed me to choose. The mid-80s right now, and it was 28 degrees this morning. and it'll probably be 28 degrees tomorrow morning and 80 degrees again tomorrow afternoon. It's just pretty amazing. I'm at 8,000 feet here, and as you can see, on day one I didn't get a bear because I'm back in the stand, and unfortunately the bears on this bait have just completely gone nocturnal, and it happened on the day we hung the stand. So I'm a little bit concerned that something happened when we were hanging the stand. Possibly the bear was really close or something, but he'd been mostly coming into the day until Friday when we hung the stand, and now it's Sunday. But he did come in 3 times last night. The one female has not been back since Thursday evening or Friday morning, I forget. But the big male, he came in last night about 10 o'clock, which is an hour after I left. And then he was at 1:40, he was back for about 20 minutes, and then again at 5 o'clock this morning. The bear that Virgil was hunting last night up on a creek 2 drainages over was also a no-show, so neither one of us saw a bear last night after having plenty of daylight activity on the cameras. Well, it is Monday morning. The season's been open 2 days, and wheels just totally came off this hunt. I just never dreamed, if you'd have told me 48 hours ago that I was going to be feeling this discouraged, I would have never guessed it. But every bear that we've got has gone nocturnal. We haven't got a daylight picture in 2 days, ever since Friday when we set the tree stands, and we've only got 2 baits with bears on them, and we have to go to town today because we got to register the last bait that we put out, and it's got to be registered by 7 days. We do have the option of registering one more section, which means a 4-hour drive, and then we got to put the bait out, and then it's a 1-hour drive each way back to town to call in that bait, which would have to be done sometime in the next 7 days if we can find a good spot to put a bait. It's Monday, and I have to be home Sunday at the latest, which means leaving Saturday, and it takes the better part of a day to get all of our stuff out of the woods, the stands and the barrels and everything like that at the 4 sites that we have. Boy, the odds are just really stacked against us at this point. So we're going to have a powwow this morning and kind of talk about what our options are. I think, we're not going to admit defeat yet, but realistically, man, our chances went from really, really good 2 days ago to really, really pessimistic right now, and it's very unfortunate that this happened the way it did, but that's the way this bear hunting goes, and it's extremely difficult the way that Wyoming has this set up. We can't just go find a couple more sites and put out baits. It's a very complicated and time-consuming process to get everything done legally. We're going to have some breakfast here and talk about what our options are, and we'll take it from there. As you can see, this goofy bear is digging through everything. He just dug all the trail mix, and he's got Honey Nut Cheerios and all the other good stuff that we got in there, and he dug it all out of the barrel, and he's just only eating the pastries. This bear gone completely nocturnal. The bigger male, the female that has been coming in here, a little bit smaller, chocolate. I haven't seen her for 2 days, so I don't know what happened there. We're gonna stay after it here. Unfortunately, we've still only got 2 baits working. The one up Sheep Creek is in a great location, had a small blonde bear on it, and the doggone people came in there and just camped right on the game trail, 225 yards from our bait. They're dogs. They got 5 or 6 dogs. They got 9 tents and trucks and people banging pots and pans in there and stuff like that. What a bizarre place to camp. But anyway, they shut that bait down for us. All right, you sure you want to do this?
No, it's time. Let's just try and get that bandage off.
That's probably going to hurt like crazy.
No, it's not bad. I just got to get a hold of the edge of it.
Oh yeah. Now, if you die while I'm doing this, can I have your truck?
Well, yeah.
There, it worked. I got one.
Yep. 1 out of 7.
Oh boy. Tell me if I'm pulling too hard.
I'll just get a bullet and bite on it if I have to.
Well, I'm hunting the 8,000 foot bait again today. This is the bait that I named 8,000 foot because it's at 8,000 feet and it's 1,000 feet above our camp. And I've decided to park my four-wheeler in a different place today. As you can see, I'm standing beside what is an old broken down corral that probably looks like this at one time was a horse pack camp up in here. And they've closed this area off so outfitters can no longer camp overnight up in this high country. So I apologize, I feel like these videos have been sounding really repetitious, but we do have some developments here. It is day 4, it's Tuesday. We took the night off last night because all of our bears were nocturnal. And we got a new bear. I talked about one bait that seemed like it was in a terrific spot, and it got a new bear on it. It was hit after 7 days of sitting there. So it's got a really nice color phase bear on it. We don't have any daylight pictures of the bear yet, so we don't know exactly what color it is, but it's a light colored bear. And we put a stand up there today, and Virgil's going to hunt that tonight. Dave is going back to hunt where the one that I call brown sugar is at. So we've got bears on all the baits, and because they had all gone nocturnal, we decided to just give them one day off, and hopefully we would allow them to, you know, settle down, just get comfortable, come into the bait site, feel relaxed and things like that. And then hopefully once they get more relaxed and comfortable, there's more likelihood that they're going to come in during the daylight. It's starting to feel a little bit like a long shot at this point. But we do have bears on the baits, and you know, people say that this valley has a lot of bears, but we've been here for 11 days now and we aren't seeing multiple bears on the bait, which, you know, if we're in good spots, which I believe we are, and we got great bait, which I know we do, it seems like we'd have competition on the bait by now, but we really aren't seeing that. And I'm questioning if the bears are up higher, if they're down lower, you know, or if there just isn't that many bears. People say there's a lot of bears in this valley. Well, maybe it just means a lot different than if you say there's a lot of bears in Saskatchewan or Manitoba or Ontario or Minnesota, UP of Michigan, Wisconsin, and so forth. I just don't think the bear density is here. So anyway, I'm going to go up and park my four-wheeler in a new spot here because I've been parking it just off the main ATV trail onto a little skidder trail to kind of hide it. There's a fair amount of recreational ATVers that use this area, particularly on the weekends. And I really started analyzing how the bear was approaching the bait, and I kind of backtrailed a little bit to try to figure out where I thought he was coming from, and sure enough, it took me down to that skidder trail where I'd been parking my four-wheeler, and I think he may be bedding about 200 to 300 yards down into a ravine where it's kind of dark timber and it's a little cooler down in there, and then coming up towards the bait and actually using that skidder trail which is where he would encounter my ATV. And I wish I'd have thought of that a few days ago. I don't know for sure that that's the case, but I just decided it makes sense to hide my four-wheeler in a different spot. So, you know, we're still working this. We got a few days left here, and we're excited that we do have another bear on the bait. It looks like a beautiful, you know, light colored bear, and hopefully we'll get a look at either the skin with Virgil carrying it out, or at least start to get some daylight photos of it. So I'll see you in the tree stand. I'm just getting myself situated here. The bear did come in the daylight yesterday when I wasn't here. I just checked a covert scouting camera, and he came at 7:30-ish last night. So he came in well before dark. Well, that tells me that one of my two theories are right. Number one, he's got me figured out, or the fact that my four-wheeler was sitting in that skidder trail might have been turning him around. So I just made the hike the 200 yards up the mountainside from where my four-wheeler's parked right now, and at 8,000 feet, 200 yards up the mountainside is quite a hike. But I got a feeling we are going to have a bear on us tonight. The wind is right. I just put some more pastries out, and this bear like digs through everything and eats the pastries first, and then he'll go to the trail mix and whatever else is left. I put 3 pounds of bacon out also, in addition to another bucket of pastries, and I left the bucket sitting by the barrel just because I don't want it over here by me. So my confidence just went way up, so hopefully here we go. The bear. Die right there. Die right there. Die within sight. Dead within sight. Oh my gosh. I got him. I can't believe it. Dead within sight. That's what I like. Oh. Oh my gosh, the last 20 minutes. I saw him cross behind the bait, basically about right where he just died, about 20-25 minutes ago. There's the death moan. He's big. Okay, so he crossed behind the bait about 20-25 minutes ago. I turned the camera on and hit record because I thought he was going to come around and come in right to my left there. But man, after 10-15 minutes, I'm holding my bow right here. I'm ready. And nothing. And then all of a sudden, I caught movement out of my right, and the bear was crossing the clearing right along the far edge of this clearing about 30-40 yards away, right over there. And he just made a complete circle, and I just watched him. Made a complete circle all the way around. And I just couldn't, I wanted to get the camera on him, but he'd just go through an opening and look this way, so I never got a chance to get the camera on him until he stepped out right here and walked right to the bait. He gave me a perfect broadside shot. My arrow was singing, turn me loose, and I turned it loose. Jeepers. Can you believe that? Do it yourself, public land, Wyoming, 8,000 feet, 727 on day 4. Let's go have a look at him. And there's no need to blood trail him, because he's right there. That's a nice big male bear. There's the barrel. Good grief, I am less than 50 yards from the bait. You know what? This ain't the male. I just shot the female. The one with all the... Yeah, look at all the color on her back. I got the female. I thought I shot the big male. Okay, so things just drastically changed. I was all excited about coming back in here in the morning with everybody else and skinning this bear out in the morning, because it gets cold at night here. I mean, it literally drops 50 to 60 degrees. It's been frost most mornings. But there's a big male on this bait, and I was so focused thinking that I was going to shoot the big chocolate male. This female hasn't been in here. She hasn't been on camera for 3 days. And that's the one I got. So it's a nice big bear. Good grief, she's pushing 300 pounds. Got a huge head on her. Good night. This is a big bear for a female. Beautiful chocolate. Got this really nice blonde streak down her back, but I'm not sure if I can leave her in here overnight with that big male around. I got to make a decision on that. Either way, we're going to get this bear skinned out, and I want to show you a really delicious recipe for bear loin. So I'm gonna do that in tomorrow's video. But I'm 50 yards behind the bait right now, and it's sun's going down. So I got to make some fast decisions about what to do here. But what a fantastic hunt. I'm at 8,000 feet. I'm in Wyoming, public land, a do-it-yourself hunt. Man, it's been a struggle, and boom, all of a sudden, it's just a roller coaster ride of ups and downs, and man, are we on an up right now. Terrific chocolate bear. This is going to look wonderful as a rug on the wall in my lake property. Man, thanks for watching this, and like I said, there'll be one more. I'll do another video tomorrow, and really appreciate all the people that follow along. And if you have a question or a comment, you know, please leave a comment below, or if you have a question that I didn't do a very good job of answering, you know, the interaction in the comments below is really important. Likes are really important, and the subscribers are what allow me to do this, and I'm really grateful to all of you who are a part of this, because you're part of what allows me to do what I do, and thank you very much. right, the good news is my bear is still intact, and 40 yards that way, the bait was hit again. So that's kind of best case scenario, I guess, for us. So what we're going to do here is we are going to skin this bear, and we're going to take some meat off of it, haul that back, and I'm going to show you how to make a really good fried bear loin recipe. That's really good, and it's threatening rain here, so hopefully we can get this thing skinned pretty quick and get it out here. We've got 3 guys working together, so it should go pretty good. And then hopefully tonight Dave and Virgil will have bears in front of them too. We have a second bear, another chocolate even bigger than this one, that is on this bait, and then we got another chocolate that just showed up on the bait that Dave's been hunting. So you know, we got multiple bears that are working the baits, and some in daylight, some in dark, mostly in dark. But you know, we're not done yet. We got 3 more days to hunt. We have to leave on Saturday, and so we're hoping for some more good action here. So thanks for following along, and we'll see you down at camp with some bear meat.
I'm thinking, hand it back like this. If you can just go through the mold. I'll try to watch your saw.
Okay. All right, I've got a piece of this bear loin here, about 1 foot long, and I don't know, it's probably 1.5 pounds or so, and I'm gonna try to feed 3 guys with it here. And I got Virgil and Dave that have promised me they're not gonna make faces when I cook for them, so it should be fun. And I'm just gonna show you this really quick, easy recipe to do some bear loin that's really, really tasty. Okay, I got the silver skim trimmed off. Now I'm chunking this all up into small pieces, about the size of your thumb. Try to get most of the fat out of there. You don't have to get all the fat, but the majority of the bigger chunks of fat we got to get out of there. I'm going to add some olive oil to the pan. And about 3/4 of a stick of butter. Now, this is bear camp, you're not on a diet. Ooh. Virgil says make sure they know this is South Dakota butter. Alright, so the butter's hot and crackling, but not brown yet. If the butter turns brown, it's burning. So spread it out good, and all we're going to do is really get this crispy and brown. We're going to make sure it's cooked brown all the way through. I do this sometimes with beef and venison and stuff, and sometimes it's medium rare in the middle. With bears, you have the threat of trichinosis, so make sure that it's brown all the way through. And Lowry seasoned salt. And Virgil made up some brown rice, or rice with brown gravy to go with it. Bear loin nuggets, I guess, for lack of a better word. A little rice with brown gravy. All right, boys. You told me you wouldn't make fun of me. Now remember that.
That's got good flavor.
It's
Very
really
good.
good. It's chewy.
Yep.
I don't know if you cook it longer, if it'd be a little more tender maybe, but wow, it's really got great flavor. If you know people who say they don't like black bear, try this one on them. It's really good.
Very good.
All right, well, we're not done making videos here. Dave and Virgil still don't have a bear. We got some bears on the baits. 6 chocolate bears that we've seen, and we've only shot one of them. So that means we got more work to do. And
One milling around me last night.
yeah, Virgil had one around him last night, but he said if you had a rifle, you could have shot it. But he never did commit to the bait. And the bear on your bait, the brown sugar, I call him that because he's sweet. And he came in half an hour after you left. And then we've got other bears that are somewhat irregular, so we'll be making some more videos hopefully. Well, before I end this series, I wanted to give you a rundown on what the past few days looked like since that last segment of the video where we ate the loins from that bear. We worked really hard. Unfortunately, neither Virgil nor Dave got a chance at a bear. Unfortunately, the bears just completely went nocturnal. Other than one bear that we got on camera, it was a nice big chocolate bear on the Cabin Creek bait. He came in at 4 o'clock one day in the daylight, and he fed for about 15 minutes, and then he left, and he never came back. And several days of hoping that he would come back and we'd get another chance at him, we never saw him again. So that was really strange. The bait that sat for 6 or 7 days without getting any bears on it, and then finally got one bear on it, that bear was totally nocturnal, and then boom, 2 days before the end of the season, a great big giant slob just moved in there, and he is huge. And he fed for, I guess, the last 3 days of the season, and we hunted him, but he never came in the daylight. So unfortunately, we didn't get any more of the bears, and but we learned a lot. And I'm going to do 2 more videos. One is going to be on the strategies that we use, the thought process for locations and types of baits and scents and things like that. And I'm going to do a video just on that to help you if you ever go. And I want to explain the things that we learned about hunting in the mountains and how it's different than, hunting in the other areas in the Midwest and the boreal forest where we've hunted before. And the second video that I'm going to do is I'd like to walk you through the complicated process of Wyoming's archery bear hunting and the non-resident bear hunting system. And it's really convoluted. I don't know of any other state that does it anything like this. But the registering of square sections and purchasing of licenses and then the registering of the GPS coordinates of your baits and the specifics of the types of barrels that you have to use and so forth. And they've got some really different regulations that are different than anywhere else I've ever hunted, and I've hunted in a lot of states and provinces. So I want to do a video just to kind of walk you through the process. If you ever want to go to Wyoming to hunt, you're going to want to see this video because it'll really simplify things for you. So I want to be, as I close here of this 7-part vlog, I just wanted to thank you so much for being a part of this. I love doing this. I love the hunting and sharing it with you and the people who come and view these videos. I'm so grateful because YouTube is a small income stream, but it does help me be able to do the things that I love to do, and I do love sharing them with you, and I love hearing your comments. And so from my heart, I just want to thank you for being a part of this. And we're going deer hunting next. I'm also going to be doing some bear baiting in Minnesota coming up here in the next few weeks. I'll do a video on that. There's lots more stuff coming. Thank you so much for following along. Well, it's very disappointing, But our hunt is over, and it hasn't been a disappointing hunt at all, but we are packing up here, getting ready to go. About the only thing left to do is take the wall tent down, and we'll be on our way. So I just wanted to spend some time on a video talking through strategy and what we learned from this. We made a couple mistakes. There's definitely some things we could have done better, and it's always fun to learn and learn from your mistakes even. So as I'm driving home here, the 17-hour drive, I'm gonna really think through the process and take some notes, and then when you see me next, I'll be back at home, and we'll have a discussion about what we learned from this trip. And if you ever decide you want to do it, I'll try to help you be effective and efficient in these Wyoming backcountry bears. Hey everybody, I'm back in Minnesota and just kind of debriefing from this Wyoming bear hunt, and I wanted to share a few things with you about the strategy that we employed and some things that we learned, what worked, what didn't work, and so forth. Because first of all, I want to record this in case I do this again someday so I can go back and refer to it. And also there's some of you who may be interested in hunting in the mountains in a do-it-yourself public land situation, and you would want to have this information. So here goes. There's three main categories of things I want to talk about. The first thing is the location that we chose for the baiting. It's really difficult because you have to choose a section, a square mile section of land, and there's one outfitter in that valley that has 28 sections already claimed, and when he claims a section, he claims them for that entire year, whether he hunts spring or fall or whatever. And then also he has first chance to claim those sections again the following year. So you really have to work hard at kind of finding a place that's maybe a little bit overlooked to try to find a great section that has a good bait location in it, because the majority of them are taken up year after year after year. And then the fact that you have to register the sections in person at a game and fish office means that if you're traveling from a long distance, you have to do basically what I did, and that is really analyze stuff with onX maps or base maps or whatever, and then look at Google Earth and try to analyze the terrain, look at topographic maps, and try to determine, based on what you know about bears, what their travel patterns might look like. Then you also have to take into account the scent. So what I decided to do was concentrate on places where I felt like bears might be traveling in the evenings. And so that was ridges, but not high ridges, not mountaintop type ridges, but ridges where it would be open, where a mature male bear would rather walk than, say, right down in a bottom of a draw where it's real thick and he'd have to push his way through and so forth. Bears are going to take the path of least resistance. So I was looking for places where ridges ran into other types of things, and so a convergence of different travel patterns is what I'm looking for. For example, one of our good baits was, there is a creek that runs in the bottom of this valley, and it's got willows all around it and everything like that. It's really good cover, and there was a game trail along this creek, and shooting up from that was a canyon that went up into a big mountain basin. And so that looked to me like an area where the bears, number one, would use that game trail going down through that canyon, and also the trail that is along that creek would funnel bear activity. And so you have to be 200 yards from water. So we hiked up that canyon, actually ended up going up there about 200, probably 270 yards, 250. Then my thought was that the Northwoods Gold Rush that we're using, and the smell of the bait and everything like that, as it cools off in the evening, the air that's cooling down starts to go downhill, and it would push the scent of that bait down into that valley where that creek was. So you got bears that are using this trail and bears that are using this trail, and that turned out to be a pretty effective method on actually 3 of the 4 baits. Worked out that way pretty well. So that's one thing. That's the type of locations that I was looking for. And setting your stands, it just seemed like it helped to set your stand above the bait if possible, but not above to the point where the evening thermals are going to take your scent in the stand right to the bait. So you got to get off to one side a little more or another. And I also kind of picked up some nuggets of information about location from Nick Hopkins, who has Boar Masters, and he was very helpful to me and open with me, even though he knows I'm sponsored by Northwoods Bear Products and he owns a competing company. He's just a great guy and was helpful. And a couple other guys that I know that I called who have bear hunted in the mountains before, you know, they gave me a nugget or two here that I was able to use that information. So that's on the location aspects, that's what seemed to work the best. The barrels that I use, here's another factor. My theory was, as I mentioned in an earlier video, is that if the bears could stick their paw in and pull the bait out, then they wouldn't mess with the barrels and tear them off the trees and bust them up and chew them up and stuff like that. And that proved to be true, but it did give us a different issue that we had to deal with. We only had one bear that partially pulled a barrel off the tree, and it was just a ginormous bear that just came on the bait like in the last 3 days we were there, and never came in during the daylight, but just a huge 400-pound gigantic bear that was a nighttime bear. He did mess with the barrel. He actually pulled some 2-inch lag screws out of the tree with the chain, and he tore the barrel lid off with his teeth. That was the only bear that really messed with the barrels very much. So the rest of them, you know, the theory worked that if they could just freely get the bait out, excellent. It worked great. The problem is in Wyoming, you have to enclose your bait in a barrel, and if there's bait on the ground, you have to shovel it back into the barrel. Well, when you're using trail mix, and the outfitters out there, I talked to one of the guides, and they primarily use barley. So, and the outfitters in the mountainous terrain, they typically use a lot of grain, and boy, that makes it really, really tough to get that back into the barrel. So, you know, we had one bear that he just loved the pastries, and he would dig everything out and he'd eat the pastries, and when the pastries are gone, then he'd work on the other stuff. Well, that's quite a bit of bait on the ground, and if it's trail mix, which mostly it is, it's really hard to get it back into the barrel. So, you know, we used a shovel, and we did make a good faith effort to try to keep the bait in the barrel, put the bait back in the barrel, and then after, when we pulled out, some of the bait sites didn't have all of the bait cleaned up, and so we had to take the bait out with us. And so I feel like we did a good job of making a good faith effort of trying to do that, but the reality is, you know, you got peanuts and stuff like that are down in the grass and kind of spread around, and you can't completely pick up every piece of bait. So looking at that, you know, I might do the barrel a little bit differently if I tried to do it again. The third thing is, there's no surprise that the sprays and scents that we used work just as well in the mountains as they do in the northern boreal forests like Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Ontario, where all these other places that I've hunted. The Gold Rush was terrific. The oil and the bears getting that really good smelling oil on their feet and their fur, and the sprays that we use. We use primarily the fruit type and berry type sprays like blueberry, cherry, and so forth, and they worked as well as they have in other places. So that was important. And then the fourth thing was the fact that we had really high quality bait, and I really think that you know, because the outfitters are primarily using grains, and a lot of other baiters, no matter where you go, aren't willing to go through the effort to get really good quality bait. You just can outcompete them. And when you're sectioning off the whole landscape into square mile sections, and everybody's got a bait in their own square mile section, you got to have quality bait to keep the bears on your bait. And the pastries and the trail mix, they really helped. I'm convinced of that. And the fifth and final thing is the issue of these bears going nocturnal. Now, it was pretty strange to have all daylight pictures at the beginning, and then all at once the bears all just went nocturnal. And I think they were just super sensitive in these areas where they rarely encounter humans on foot. Now, there's a lot of four-wheeler trails and motorcycle trails and so forth through those mountains, and they get quite a bit of use, especially on the weekends. So the bears are they're continually hearing four-wheelers go by on trails, and they probably smell people quite a bit, but the actual having somebody walk up, you know, have that ground scent and so forth, and we did take precautions which helped, but these bears just went nocturnal quickly, as soon as there was too much activity around the bait. I think once we started we were baiting every day, we were hanging stands and stuff like that, and it just shut them down from daylight activity. So I'm kind of wondering, and we discussed this in camp, if a guy would go out and wait until the season, instead of starting baiting a week before the season, what if you waited till the season started and then bait, and as soon as you had that bear hit, and he hit in the daylight, just move on him right then. Just go hang a stand and get there. And I kind of think that might be a good strategy. The problem is it can sometimes take several days to get a bear on the bait. We had one bait that got hit the second day. We had, I think, 2 that got hit, I think, the third or fourth day. We were getting pretty nervous about it. And then we had one bait that didn't get hit until the 6th day. And that turned out to be a bait that had 2 big chocolate bears on it. The giant one that I talked about, and then, but we did never get a daylight photo of those bears. Virgil did see one of those bears that was working his way around the bait. Didn't have a chance to shoot it with a bow. He said, if I had a rifle, I could have killed it. I just think maybe if a guy would minimize your intrusion, and as soon as you get a bear that hits the bait, bam, go after him right then. Maybe that would work better. So those are my thoughts. You know, I'm still learning this process, and when you go to a completely new area, new terrain, new wind currents, and different behavior types and different foods, you just have to learn a lot, or you're not going to be successful. And unfortunately, we only got 1 bear out of the 3 of us, but we did have a total of 7 bears on 4 baits, and incredibly, all of them were brown bears. And to me, that adds a really fun aspect to this. So, you know, if you have any questions, leave them in a comment below. Give me a like. I really appreciate your following this, and I hope you learned something from this that'll help you in your bear hunting in the future. Well, I got a few minutes in camp here, just kind of relaxing during the day as we're bear hunting here in Wyoming, and I just wanted to go through and explain to you the process of what it takes. It's really complicated in Wyoming. No other state or province, I've never seen anything like it in any other state that I've hunted, and so it's worth just taking a few minutes to explain it to you so you understand, I guess, first of all, how difficult it is, and secondly, it'll help you go through the process for yourself. Now, in Wyoming, you will register a section, and that's a 1 square mile section of land based on the township numbers, and that is your section. Nobody else can bait in it. Now, the only way to know which sections have been registered before is you have to go to a Fish and Game office and look at the map of the sections that have been registered. And they give the people who have registered the sections before, they give them the right to register them for that year before everybody else gets a chance at them. So it really stacks the odds in favor of the outfitters, number one, and then people who want to keep a section to themselves where they found a good bear baiting site. You know, they can just register it every year. They don't even have to hunt it. They just register it in April every year, and that keeps anyone else from getting that section. And you can register 2 sections. Now, before you register a section, you have to buy your hunting license. So you can't just go out and put some bear baits out and see, you know, if you get some hits and then register the sites and buy your license or anything like that. Before you do anything else, you first have to buy your bear hunting license, which between the license and the habitat stamp is going to set you back just under $400. So if you're non-resident, so it makes it really difficult because you basically have to go scout the areas, try to figure out which sections that you want to register, and you can register two, but you're going to want to have several possibilities, because when you go to the Game and Fish office and look at the map, many of the sections that you want to hunt might already be taken. Now this year they changed it so you could register the sections online because of COVID, and the offices, the Fish and Game offices, were closed, and so the maps were online. Well, it really simplified things. It'd be really nice if they continued to do that, because then you can just go online and pick which sections have been registered and which ones haven't and look at it. Now what I did, because coming all the way from Minnesota, I took Google Earth and like Onyx Maps and Base Map, and then I would look at the sections that were not registered, and I would look for good features that looked like they would be able to have a good spot for a bear bait located in those sections. Then the second thing you have to figure out is if you're going to be able to get to that spot. And one thing that we found was really difficult is that all of the trails that are marked on like Onyx or Base Map or Google Earth or topographic maps, in one case there was a topographic map and it showed a Jeep trail, so we thought we'd be able to get back into this area to put a bait in there. Well, when we got there, it's gated off and it's only a footpath. It's foot travel only, and there's signs right there. It says no motorized vehicles. Well, in another case, one of the sections that I picked before we got here had a four-wheeler trail that went back to it several miles. Well, we got on that four-wheeler trail and got about a mile back there after we arrived, and then there's a gate and a sign that says no motorized vehicles except snowmobiles. So that was one of my sections that I registered. I couldn't even get to put a bait in it. So it's very, very confusing and very, very difficult for the non-resident. The other thing is that once you put the bait out, you have to go register the GPS coordinates of the bait. And what makes this doubly difficult is because you have to register the sections in person. You know, where we're at right here, it's an hour to cell service, and it's another hour to the nearest Game and Fish office in Jackson. And during August, when you're baiting, the season opens August 15th, and so you're baiting a few days before the season. And then Jackson, Wyoming, at that time of the year is a jumble of tourists, and it takes you forever to get through town. I mean, it can take you 30 minutes pretty much from the time you hit the main part of Jackson to get to the Fish and Game office. So, you know, from where we're camped right here, it's to get to town, to get to the Fish and Game office, and then get the registrations done, then turn around and get back here. It's 5 hours to do that. That takes a lot of time out of your day for baiting and checking baits and stuff like that. Sorry to break in on you like this, but I just got home and I'm editing this video that I did in bear camp, and a couple of things I just wanted to clarify a little bit better about this section thing. Now, Wyoming has both a spring and a fall season, and so when a person registers a section, they register it for the year. Even if they only hunt in the spring, that section cannot be hunted in the fall. If somebody shoots a bear right away, nobody else can still hunt that section. And so these outfitters can claim these sections. The one outfitter has 28 sections that are claimed, and so no one else can hunt in those square mile sections throughout the year. And the other thing is, you just don't know how far away their bait is from yours. You could be right up against the edge of a section. They could be right on the other side of a section. In fact, that one section that I mentioned where we drove all the way back in and found that it was gated off and turned into a snowmobile trail, there was just one little tiny corner of that section that we could actually access, and so we actually put a bait right there, and it turned out to be a pretty good bait. But when we got to Jackson to register it, and I told the guys, I said, man, we are right very, very close to the edge of this section. I hope we're actually in the section that we're supposed to be, because we didn't have it on the GPS where the section lines actually are. I was going from memory of seeing it online from home. And we got to Jackson and we registered the section, and the girl in the office put it in, and she turned and looked at me and she says, you're 9.5 yards from the edge of your section. So literally someone else could have a bait legally 10 yards from me. and you don't know if somebody's baiting in that section or not, and there's no resource for you to find that out. So that's other things to keep in mind with regard to where other people are baiting. And the other thing I probably should mention that I didn't mention in this video is that if you're hunting the early archery season that starts August 15th, you've also got to have an archery permit, which is $72. So anyway, back to the video. Once you have the sections registered and you put a bait out, then all you have to do is drive the hour from here to the nearest cell service where you can register those by the phone. But then if you shoot a bear, of course, then you got to drive and register the bear. So it makes it really, really difficult for the non-resident to come in and do this, but it can be done. You know, we've got bears on our baits, and we've got 4 baits that are in good spots. There's 3 of us, and despite the fact that a couple of the sections that we register we weren't able to use, we've made the best of it, and I feel pretty confident that we're going to get a bear in front of us. But just drop a question below if this is confusing to you. It definitely is. You can call up a Fish and Game office and ask them to detail it for you. It's very difficult to make it all work and do it legally, and we've jumped through all the hoops, and you know, feel pretty good about now that we've got it done. But if you want to bear hunt in Wyoming with bait, this is what you've got to do. And the good thing is now that we found good bait sites, if we want to come back next year, then we could go in April and call in and register our sites. It's very much stacked against non-residents, but it is doable. So if you do it, I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you on the next video.